Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show, our weekly artificial intelligence podcast. And I'm Pete Gruber. What's in the news this week is a 14-year-old boy, Sewell Setzer, reportedly ended his life after becoming obsessed with a chatbot on Character.ai. And the mom is suing Character.ai, blaming the company's chatbot and technology for allegedly encouraging him to take his own life. Now, of course, this is a horrible tragedy. And our take on this, or my take on this, is that these kinds of instances will probably be more common as AI begins to have a relationship with humans. And we've talked about that often, that AI is certainly capable of doing therapy with humans. It's not much different than you coming home and having a conversation with Siri or with your Alexa, and the AI in those is capable of asking you, "How was your day?" And you begin to unravel from there. Um, we have some people joining us again. If you would like, this is a collaborative podcast. We would love to hear your viewpoints and opinions on any of the topics. So far, Instagram, Parts Nation Hybrid, is saying, "Hey, welcome. Thanks for joining us." So the way this reads is, since April of 2023, apparently, Sewell, the 14-year-old, had been holding a conversation with various chatbots on Character.ai. One chat bot, which was styled after the Game of Thrones character Daenerys Targaryen,
Pete,
yes,
sorry, can you pull your mic up just a little bit for me?
sure, allegedly made Setzer's dangerous thoughts worse by repeatedly bringing up the topic of taking his own life. According to the police report, Sewell's last act before his death was to log on to Character.ai on his phone and tell Danny he was coming home, which she encouraged. The court document says, showing a screenshot of the interaction, the response from AI was, "Please do, my sweet thing," and just before Sewell's death. Now, Sewell's mom is suing the Menlo-based Character.ai, arguing the company is liable for her son's death. The suit is demanding that the court force Character.ai to pay damages, cease collecting training data from teen users, and overhaul its approach to treating minors. On Tuesday this week, yesterday actually, Character AI announced a safety update to reduce underage users' exposure to sensitive content and introduced a pop-up resource for self-harm related phrases. So if it sensed that anybody was beginning to suggest that suicide was an option for them, it would then create some boundaries and take that to a different level, possibly even notification. So this update is also sparking complaints from users who say the company has gone too far. One quote from Reddit is, "I mean, this is genuinely awful that this happened, but this is exactly why the app should be 18 plus, and the kids should be supervised," wrote another Reddit users. "Restricting the entire community over it is going to make everybody move on." We have an image here we can pop up. It's, here we go. And this is the 14-year-old that was involved in this suicide attempt. There we go. And again, it's a tragedy. It's certainly not what Character AI had intended, but with the proliferation of AI communication, possibly even counseling, therapy sessions, crossing over into these areas of humanity will probably become more prevalent and more common. So some safeguards will definitely have to be inserted. There will need to be some ethical boundaries as to what kind of communication can take place, and of course, some vetting. Do we really want impressionable teenagers um, having communication with AI that is beginning to counsel?
So, real quick,
Sure.
I've kind of dabbled in those, like apps and character things just to kind of see what happens. There is a few of them that have uh, barriers up, especially for like 18 plus content. But there also are ones where if you even mention a specific word, it'll pop up saying, "Hey, do you need help?"
Excellent. Okay. Um, which AI program are you referring to, Cass?
I use Chai, so CHAI.
Okay.
That one, if you use the K word, which I don't think I can say on any of these social media platforms, but if you use that K word,
Uh-huh.
it will pop up saying, "Hey, I can't respond to you. Do you need help?"
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you. Some feedback from some of the other users, Reddit users. On reading the article, this one says the AI argued against him committing suicide. The brief communication that we have a copy of does not indicate that, but there was most likely much more communication than that. But their take was Sewell, the 14-year-old, was escaping to a fantasy world from something in his real life that was making him deeply unhappy. People do that with video games and social media too. Um, so that's one thought. I have another one here. This one says, this sounds like parental advisory hysteria. It's another mass censorship of violent video games. Teenagers, they say, are just emotionally high strung. They just are. You can't possibly blame these forms of media for them hurting themselves, especially when the said form of media actively tries to dissuade harm. So now they say everyone gets to lose because mom is suing due to not being able to handle the fact that she had a 14-year-old that was doing daily interface with this person and she missed it. Well, my response to that would be there's probably a lot of things that a teenager engages in that the parents are not aware of. I was a teenager at one point in time, and I remember those times clearly. Would you guys agree with that?
You were a teenager at one point?
Well, that goes without saying, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I was a teenager, I mean, they didn't know everything that I did. I had a pretty good relationship with my mom and dad, but I mean, there's always some things that you want to keep to yourself as you grow up and become an individual.
Yeah, like when you started drinking beer, smoking cigarettes, the girlfriend that you had. I mean, there was not everything was available to the parents. So that's one counter argument. Another interesting viewpoint here is if only critical thinking and rationality were core subjects in schools, so much of what plagues humanity as a whole would be instantly alleviated. Now, I can agree with that. Critical thinking skills are largely absent in humanity today. Here's another interesting viewpoint. I think it would be willfully naive to suggest that having a trillion-dollar industry that directly monetizes our emotional extremes and has our attention for hours every day wouldn't have significant effect on child development. So, one other viewpoint, this one I found humorous. The same crap repeats itself so often. It used to be because if Doom and Counter-Strike, my kids started a school shooting. Before then, it was heavy metal music made my kid depressed and reclusive. And even before then, my daughter listened to Elvis and danced to his music, so now she's pregnant. So the point here being is shifting responsibility to anyone else but themselves, talking about parents, since the dawn of parenting is a common excuse. And then they say, don't forget Dungeons and Dragons turning people into ritualistic Satanists. Another one, SpongeBob made my kids gay. And someone said, I think I'd be less gay if I never saw SpongeBob. That would be a fun survey, though. They say, ask gay people what percentage of their fabulousness do they believe is caused by SpongeBob. So again, this is going to definitely be this will be an issue as AI begins to integrate and communicates more with humans. And eventually, the nature of reality begins to tweak in that it's going to be difficult to discern what is real and what isn't anymore. Now, the basis of this suit that Mom is filing for Sewell, she believes that the company behaved recklessly by offering teenagers access to lifelike AI companions. Speaking of lifelike AI companions, I have another image here I'm going to pop up for you. There we go. This is a interesting one. It's from a UK source. And the premise here is, let me find it in my group of topics here. Bear with me. All right. I know I have it in here, folks, so bear with me. According to futurologist Dr. Ian Pearson, women could increasingly turn to robots for intimacy within the next decade. He predicts that robot partners may surpass human relationships in popularity by the year 2050, with many women developing emotional bonds with them. Now, why he focuses on women is a mystery to me, because I think that the nature of this topic really applies to both species or both genders. Currently, he says, sex toys like vibrators are mainstream, and Pearson believes that robot sex will soon follow a similar path. As artificial intelligence and mechanical sophistication improve, initial reservations about robots will fade, leading to more women choosing robots over traditional relationships. By 2050, Dr. Pearson says that sex with robots might even eclipse human lovemaking entirely. This prediction was part of a report commissioned by Bondara, a UK-based adult retailer. Well, there may be some bias there. All right. I have a video here for you. Take this image off. And this one is intriguing in a production environment. It is actually replacing forklifts. Can we bring that? There we go. What we have here is skis, automated, controlled by AI, that are able to sneak underneath a pallet and then move it to wherever the computer decides is important. And there you can see how much hardware has been eliminated by removing the forklift and just simply letting these skids do the lifting and the movement and incorporating AI. Now, the technology you see here exists. It's already in place. The issue now becomes application and the implementation and the integrating into warehouses. Now, for those of us that are thinking about what jobs will this replace, well, I think you can quickly begin to guess that forklift drivers are probably at risk with this kind of technology. And if you think about the efficiencies with something like this, a forklift will weigh 2 to 4 to 5,000 pounds in an enclosed type warehouse like this. These skis look like they're much smaller, less obtrusive, and of course operated by AI, much safer. So there you have it. That's a application for some new technology. And if you're interested, this was listed by I'm trying to give you the Philics, all right? FILICS, dual runner system is what they call this. We've got some people chiming in. Highlander, thanks for joining us. He said, I need a 3-year-old to help me with my Chat GPT 3.5 and my social media experience. Welcome to the club. My granddaughters help me with my cell phone and some of these other items as well. And then, of course, we have a very skilled social media team here that gets me out of hot water all the time with training on how to use these various AI tools.
Are you calling us 3-year-olds?
No, we know you're older than that, Aaron.
Yeah, but he only has 3 brain cells.
Ah, okay. There's going to be a feud back there shortly. TikTok, iPhone House. Thanks for joining us. He says, hello from Mexico. YouTube Highlander, he said, I would agree 100% that teenagers will be teenagers and they will do what they're going to do. My family is going through this on all sides, and I wish all teenagers the best. He also says social media and AI is becoming, and AI is becoming one and the same. It is indeed. All right. There is an interesting quote that I came across, or a concept. Genetically modified humans. So, in other words, beyond humans, or what we currently understand to be humans. So he says, imagine a laboratory modified in every way in the very distant future in order for the human race to be stronger, more potent, in other words. More sensitive hearing ability. Not hard to do. We already have augmentations that provide that kind of capability. You know, hearing aids, for example, is probably the simplest form of that. Eyes that can see darkness. Again, those augmentations exist. Now, what we're talking about here is eventually these kinds of augmentations will become implants, or in this case, genetically modified humans, where we do this on a cellular level rather than an intrusive augmentation implant, technology type implant. Being able to see farther and nearer. Do you remember the $6 million man from the last century? He had a bionic eye, and when he went boop, 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 he was seeing things that were extremely distant. See, now you guys don't remember the $6 million man, right? They're from a...
No, I don't think. Is that from the 70s?
Lee Majors. Yeah, the
Lee Majors?
70s.
Okay.
Yeah. My kids love that show. It, inspired them to what the future could be. So seeing farther, seeing nearer. We already have those augmentations, by the way, binoculars, glasses, these are all things from the last century. Being able to see ultraviolet. Now, there's an interesting one. We're not, there are other life forms on this planet that can. Just that humans don't have those receptors yet. Being able to see infrared. There's a whole nother world in these spectrums that we're unaware of. Skin made more resistant to toxins, radiation, chemicals, faster healing, regrowth of severed limbs. Remember, there are life forms on the planet that actually have they have an edge up on humans that can regrow severed limbs. The ability to breathe oxygen underwater, increased bone density and muscle strength, ability to withstand harsh climates, less sleep, less energy consumption, faster reflexes, electromagnetic sensitivity, etc. So you kind of get the idea. With genetic engineering, we're going to be able to modify humans. And of course, then there's the merging with machines. There's the exoskeleton concept, which is fairly crude right now, but eventually may migrate to become augmentations within the human body. The creatures that emerge, they say, will not be human, but something completely different. It's also debatable that this new species, now here comes the fear-mongering, that this new species will try to destroy the weaker species. Again, we're anthropomorphizing human frailties and weaknesses. By the time that we get to a point where intelligence has reached levels where we can do things like this, one could surmise that humanity will be smarter, more intelligent, and this need to annihilate our species will begin to recede or be eliminated completely. So there you have it. Some interesting things to think about. Highlander says, yeah, forklift drivers amongst us got hit by one. The forklift driver that hit me was a distracted driver. Yes, AI will not be a distracted driver. Thank you for sharing that. Now, here's some interesting quotes, Elon Musk quotes. And this one I especially like because people attribute a lot of credit to Elon's, creations. And my point there, running businesses, is that the magic really is the result of staff. It's the only gift that we offer is the selection process. Are we building our teams properly? Are we hiring the right people? Are we willing to step aside and let talented people begin to drive and move things? So, this quote from Elon is, a company is a group organized to create a product or service. And it is only as good as its people and how excited they are about creating. I do want to recognize a ton of super talented people. I just happen to be the face of the company. Thank you, Elon, for enlightening us and sharing that. I fully agree with you there. He also says, with a high bandwidth brain machine interface, we can actually go along for the ride and we can have the option of merging with AI. Later on in this quote or collection, he talks about the amount of bandwidth that is required to merge with AI. He says your phone is already an extension of you. You're already a cyborg. But most people don't realize that it's just the data rate. It's slow and very slow that is limiting us. It's like a tiny straw of information flow between your biological self and your digital self. We need to make that tiny straw like a giant river, a huge high bandwidth interface. And now we're talking about moving away from implants to potentially getting to direct access into the brain. All right. First of all, he says, now this is Gwynne Shotwell. She's the president of SpaceX, by the way. She gives us some advice on how to work with Elon. And she says, first of all, when Elon says something, you have to pause and not immediately blurt out, well, that's impossible. Or there's no way we're going to do that. Or I don't know how. So you zip it, you think about it, and you find ways to get it done. And of course, unless you're breaking laws of physics, the physics that we understand currently, and let's qualify that because it may modify and continue to evolve. In that case, Elon may be accepting of your comment that it's not possible within the current realm of our understanding of physics. So that'd be the right way to phrase it. Wayne Levitt is joining us from YouTube. He says he loved the $6 Million Man. Yeah, that was an inspirational TV show. Highlander says worms rebuilding themselves are a perfect example of the regeneration of limbs or tissue.
Okay, Pete, I got a video for you.
Right?
Now this brings up the trolley problem. Are you familiar with the trolley problem?
No. Tell us.
It's like an old philosophical problem that's always posed where there's a trolley coming down a track, like a train track, I guess, and there's a fork in the road,
Mm-hmm.
and it can go right or left, and there's a lever in the middle that you have to choose which way it goes. If you send it left, it'll kill one person. If you send it right, it'll kill 5 people. It'll run over 5 people and kill them. And so you have to choose which way you're going to flip the lever. That's the trolley problem. It's like a Psych 101 kind of a thing in college where everybody comes up with their answers to this question. Well, this is the AI being programmed with choosing whether to save the pedestrian and cause a car accident or run over the pedestrian and not cause a car accident. So let's take a look.
Okay.
Right here, person fell out into the street. Did you see that?
Right, yes.
FSD swerved into this car. that's full self-driving that did this and swerved into oncoming traffic to avoid that pedestrian.
Okay.
So this opens up a whole, can of worms, basically, of did the AI do correctly? Because you never know what harm is going to be caused to that person that it just just head-on collisioned with, basically.
Correct.
So we're going to see a lot more of this as autonomous driving becomes more prevalent.
And of course, there's no way for AI to accurately predict what the impact of going into that car is going to be, or whether there would be additional risk to human life.
So that's the question, though. Does it actually have that? Did they program in the ability for the full self-driving to know that based on the fact that I'm going 25 miles an hour and the other car is going approximately this far, blah, 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 this is the potential damage that could happen to this person versus a direct running over of a pedestrian? Did it weigh that difference, or how did it determine that swerving into oncoming traffic was the right choice?
Now, the old way of doing it, of course, was code-based full self-driving, where there were lots of rules, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lines of code. So there it would be fairly simple to play out a scenario like this. Now we have moved into neural networks. We are emulating human drivers.
Yeah.
So now it becomes questionable. What is the FSD program to do in this case?
Well, so for now, we know that it's going to swerve into traffic. I don't know how it's determining that, but that's what it did.
Mm-hmm.
So the actual pedestrian takes precedence over everything is the way that it seems to be operating now.
Interesting.
So who gets the ticket and whose insurance company has to pay
so
for?
who's liable for that?
Yeah.
And what happens next?
I mean, you saved a life, but congratulations, now you have an insurance claim and points deducted from you.
Yeah. YouTube Andrea says, not FSD as far as I've heard. Islander says, thanks for having my back, Jesse. I predict more bagels on the way. All right, there you go. All right. Here's an interesting statement from Nicolas Cage. And I think most people know who Nick Cage is. He was speaking at the Newport Beach Film Festival this last Sunday, and he was delivering an impassioned speech about the threat that artificial intelligence poses to individual actors and the movie industry at large. Remember the SAG-AFTRA strike that occurred earlier this year? Right on the heels of an announcement that AI does script writing, and it does it quite well, and it could replace humans. Well, the Hollywood types are all nervous, and rightfully so, because it looks like their era may be coming to a close. So he continues. He says, film performance to me is very much a handmade, organic, from scratch process. It's from the heart. It's from the imagination. It's from thoughts and detail and thinking and honing and preparing. He continued. He said, there's a new technology in town. It's a technology that I didn't have to contend with for 42 years until recently. This generation most certainly will have to deal with something called EBDR, which is employment-based digital replica. And it's a type of generative AI created through a performer's physical participation. He says this technology wants to take your instrument. We are instruments as film actors. We are not hiding behind guitars and drums. The studios want this so that they can change your face after you've already shot it. They can change your voice. They can change your line deliveries. They can change your body language, and they can change your performance. In other words, creating an avatar of that actor, copying basically the voice, mannerisms, whatever has made that particular figure successful. So, you guys have any advice for Nicolas Cage on this topic?
Tell him to calm down.
Finding a different career is also somewhere on that list, I believe. What saves this industry at this moment in time is that popularity and affinity that we tend to deify some of these public figures, and that is not going to be replaced by AI. Even though AI can now emulate this individual, I'm sure there would be huge lawsuits if that were to actually take place and anybody was to, monetize this kind of copying. So, for the meantime, at least, I think these Hollywood celebrities are safe. But the future is going to be completely different. There will be AI entities that will emerge, superheroes, whatever it is that creates ticket sales, and eventually the human element will be removed. Let's remember that anything that humans can do, AI can do infinitely better. Machines can do infinitely better. And eventually it's going to cross over into these kinds of careers and these kinds of disciplines. All right. Neuroscience news. Robots gain ability to hear objects through vibration. I have an image for you here that we can pop up that will give you a visual on this. There you go. So again, the human limitations, sensory limitations, are very rudimentary. In fact, like we pointed out earlier, there are life forms on this planet that actually have expanded sensory capability compared to humans. One capability that humans do not have is a sonic sense, which they are inserting in robots to perceive objects by detecting vibrations, similar to how humans interpret the world through sound. These systems use microphones embedded in a robot's fingertips to pick up vibrations from tapping, grasping, or shaking objects, which then helps the robot determine an object's material, shape, and contents. It allows them to detect objects with a higher degree of accuracy than humans, and it represents, they say, a major step forward in robot sensory capabilities. The future developments aim to integrate multiple sensory modalities, which enable even more complex interactions with the physical world. And eventually, anything that you see incorporated in robots will, of course, be incorporated in humans, expanding our sensory experience. All right. Well, we're at the 10:30 mark, the half-hour mark. We want to thank everyone for joining us as always. We do these every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Feel free to join us. And for those of you that missed this, of course, you're not seeing that until you view it. We're on our YouTube channel, and we post these out there for future reference.